Hello everybody, it's meteorologist Jacob Campbell here with a quick tropical update. Right now we're taking a look at potential Tropical Cyclone 9, and this is currently headed toward the Caribbean Sea. It's just to the north of the northern part of South America, and it's headed in the direction of Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic. This is a loop of the last 2 or so hours of the infrared view of potential Tropical Cyclone 9, and the reason that this hasn't been upgraded into a tropical storm is because the circulation just isn't there. It's not a closed off system yet, and it has the wind speed of a tropical storm though. It has maximum winds of about 35 miles per hour, while it has maximum wind gusts of around 45 miles per hour as of the last couple of reconnaissance planes that have been flown into this system. But this is going to be impacting the Caribbean for the next few days. We'll take a look here at the forecast cone from the National Hurricane Center. We can see here in yellow, this is the potential tropical cyclone right down there, and this continues to be a tropical storm throughout almost its entire life, but currently potential Tropical Cyclone 9 has a pressure of about 1,007 millibars, a location of about 14.2 degrees north and 58.4 degrees west. Maximum wind speeds, as I mentioned earlier, are 35 knots, while the maximum wind gusts are 45 knots, and this is unlikely to become a hurricane, fortunately enough. There is a situation where this could become a hurricane, but the models are showing that that's fairly unlikely, and so there are only a handful of the less reliable models that are actually showing this hitting hurricane strength, whereas most of the models show this remaining a tropical storm. Now, the official forecast from the National Hurricane Center has this at Wednesday at 2 a.m. Atlantic Standard Time becoming a tropical storm from that potential Tropical Cyclone 9. Then it will continue moving toward Puerto Rico Wednesday into Thursday, and at about 2 a.m. on Thursday, that's when they're expecting it to make landfall at Puerto Rico at about 2 a.m. as a tropical storm. Then this will push past Puerto Rico and then just clip, it looks like, the northern portion of the Dominican Republic until it pushes out up into Florida, making landfall in Florida sometime Saturday night into early Sunday morning as a tropical storm. Now, the cone here is the forecast for this is fairly uncertain, and the National Hurricane Center has gone with a track that looks more similar to the GFS as opposed to the European. Now, Puerto Rico getting a direct hit from the eye, or the center of the low pressure, is actually a good thing, because the majority of the winds are going to be, and the majority of the thunderstorm activity is going to be on the north side of this tropical system. It almost always is for storms that are moving west, simply because if the winds, for example, in a low pressure system, move counterclockwise, so you've got winds on the north end that are moving west, and then the whole system as a whole is moving west as well, so you get an amplification of the winds on the north end and a decrease of the winds on the south end, because on the north the wind is moving with the storm direction, and on the south the wind is fighting the storm direction, so you get an increase in wind on the north and a decrease in wind on the south. Now, if this came just to the south of Puerto Rico would be in a bit of trouble, just because it would have those enhanced winds and the enhanced rainfall to the north of the system. Now, in the last couple of hours, there has been an increase in the convection, leading me to believe that this is making the transition from a potential tropical cyclone into a full-on tropical cyclone as a tropical storm. But this does still appear like it's going to pass by and directly hit Puerto Rico, which is ideally it would pass to the north of Puerto Rico, but you really don't want it to pass south of Puerto Rico, because once again you get hit with the intense wind and rain. Now, that being said, we're going to if this were to pass to the north of both Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic, this could transition into a hurricane because you don't have the land and the objects on the land slowing down the wind and also blocking off some of the moisture that could be fed into this system. And in the next slide here, you'll see the model intensity guidance, and there are a handful of them that show this reaching a low-end Category 1, whereas the majority of models are showing this being a mid to high-end tropical storm. But if this passes up both Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic to the north, then that's when you could get this becoming a hurricane. If this hits Puerto Rico dead on and then it hits the Dominican Republic head on, this will likely deteriorate in the next couple of days before it even hits Florida or anywhere south of it and north of the Dominican Republic, north and west, because the mountains of the Dominican Republic are actually going to act as like a windbreaker and then kind of rip the tropical storm to shreds. That's not what it looks like is going to happen, but there is a little bit of volatility in the forecast. This could have that more southward track, especially as there's an area of high pressure to the north and to the west that could push it to the south. The north end track, where it could turn into a hurricane, looks fairly unlikely for the same reason, because that area of high pressure should be pushing this to the south. Now, coming over here to the potential Tropical Cyclone 9 model intensity guidance from Tropical Tidbits, we have one model here that shows it reaching a high-end Category 1, and that's the HMNI. That's incredibly unlikely. The model that I've seen that's shown this getting the most intense is the HWRF, and the HWRF has it pushed ever so slightly to the north of Puerto Rico, and then also to the north of the Dominican Republic, and then it intensifies before meeting some very dry air, which could hinder it. And so I think that not only is reaching Category 1 unrealistic, reaching Category 2 is incredibly unrealistic. Majority of the models have this being a mid to high tier tropical storm, and I think that that's a good area, because even if when it gets upgraded tonight, because it's almost a guarantee that it will, if it hits Puerto Rico dead on, which it looks like that's likely at this point, it's not going to weaken it enough to be out of that tropical storm range, and it would have to hit the Dominican Republic to be moved out of that tropical storm range. And we do see a couple of the models show that at about the 48-hour forecast mark, right after it hits Puerto Rico, and when it starts getting involved with the atmosphere around the Dominican Republic, it really drops off in intensity there, tries to intensify one more time, and then gets hit by the full force of the mountain range being in the way, and then it drops off again. But the majority of the models seem to be agreeing on that Puerto Rico north of the Dominican Republic, and then up closer to Florida in that range, keeping it at about a tropical storm intensity. We're going to come over here, though, and take a look at the GFS model, because it seems to be what the National Hurricane Center is basing the majority of their forecast on at this point. We see that this is Wednesday at 6 p.m., and that low-pressure system is, which at this point would likely be tropical storm, would likely be a tropical storm at this point. We see that this is going to be moving closer to Puerto Rico before twisting north. At this point, the maximum wind speeds are going to be at about 58 miles per hour, which is a solid mid to upper range tropical storm. It'll densify a little bit as it pushes through Puerto Rico, but as it moves to the north of the Dominican Republic, it's going to reach what seems like its strongest point at about 62 miles per hour, which is shy by about 13 miles per hour of that Category 1 range hurricane. And the GFS is one of the more modest models that I've seen. Some show this reaching up to about 70 miles per hour, but I think between the European and the GFS, it seems like the 62 mile per hour mark is probably going to be about the upper end of this tropical storm. Now, with that being said, guys, I hope that you all enjoyed this video. I apologize for not uploading. I have a very busy schedule, and so what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to upload videos whenever there's at least an enhanced risk of severe storms, just giving a general forecast for them. And then if there's a moderate risk for severe storms, I'll go live. Any hurricane landfall, I'll go live on every so often just to give kind of updates on it, but nothing too crazy. This is just because I can't be consistent, as you all have probably realized, but I still want to get at least some content out to you guys, because I do appreciate your guys' continued support. So without further ado, anybody who's in the path of this storm, please be careful. Nonetheless, regardless on whether this is a tropical storm or a hurricane, it's still going to be an intense storm. So if you're in the path, please stay safe. If you know anybody in the path, please make sure they stay safe. And I hope that you all have a great night. So thank you all and have a good one.